Friends, the topic of discussion here is August Strindberg as a playwright, and this Swedish playwright attained great fame in his time in the late 19th century, and we would like to know something about this writing of this playwright at a slightly deeper level, and for that we have with us the scholar Professor Richa Bajaj, who will tell us about this person as a dramatist. So please.
Thank you, Professor Prakash. We'll be discussing Strindberg today, and also along with that his play Miss Julie. And to begin with, I'd like to take this quote from Strindberg from the preface of Miss Julie, so one understands what is his vision like as a dramatist. If you look at the screen, you will find the quote there. It says, and Strindberg says, "My souls," that is, he's talking about characters, "my souls are conglomerates of past cultures as well as present ones, scraps from books and newspapers, fragments of mankind, torn off samples of Sunday best clothes that have become rags, just as the soul is patched together. I have avoided the symmetrical mathematical construction as used by French playwrights, and have allowed the brains to function irregularly as they do in reality, where no subject is fully exhausted in a conversation, but where one brain randomly connects with another brain. The dialogue therefore meanders around, supplying themes in the first scene, which are then developed, taken up, repeated, expanded, augmented like these in a musical composition." So, end quote. This is these two particular sections that I thought would bring us closer to the dramatic technique of Strindberg. Now, as you have noticed, Strindberg is, calls his characters a product of, or conglomeration, as he says, of past cultures and present ones. Now, when he brings together the past cultures and the present ones, which means Miss Julie, for instance, in the case of Miss Julie, since we are discussing that play, you find that Miss Julie is not just this girl who is a young girl, but also the mother who's passed away. So the past cultures in which her mother grew up, what were the ideas of her mother, how she behaved, these automatically make way in the present girl, Julie, and she carries the mother in her. She carries, in fact, the mother and her own self in her. Now, that creates a kind of a fragmentation in her character, in fact. You see, Strindberg is very interested in talking about these fragmented characters, these fragments which are then patched together as rags or as clothes, or samples of clothes put together. That's what makes up the soul, according to him. So the character of Miss Julie therefore becomes complex because she carries in her own instinctual self, which wants to play around, which wants to be the girl who wants to fall in love and wants a man by her side. But then there is the mother in her, which is predominant, who believed in equality, who had ideas about women's emancipation, and made Julie promise her that she would never become a slave of a man. So Strindberg is also trying to suggest here that it is only natural, again the idea of naturalism comes in, that it is only natural for women to feel inferior to men, or that to feel that they want to be the slaves of men. But because there is the mother in Miss Julie who restricts her from being a slave, she is not her natural self, and that creates a kind of crisis. So she's the woman who wants the man to kiss her boots, but she is also a woman who says, "I will obey you like a dog." So there are these two contradictory parts, or you can say she's a paradox in many ways, because at times she behaves like her mother would have her behave, and at others she behaves like the conventional society would have women behave. So but this conventional society is not what really Strindberg suggests. For Strindberg, it's instinct. Her instinct is to be a slave of the man, but the ideas of the modern woman, the ideas of women's emancipation that have been passed down from the mother to the girl, they restrict her from being so. And finally, it leads to her tragic end. She cannot be a good wife. You see, Jean in the play tells Christine, who is the kitchen maid, that you will make a good wife. Why? Because she is Christian, because she is submissive, and she sees the man as her superior. But that is not the case with Julie. Julie cannot be a good wife. She, in fact, the moment the play opens, we find that the play actually opens right in the middle of action. The first sentence of the play is that Jean enters the kitchen and says that Miss Julie is wild again. Miss Julie has gone crazy again. So that's how the play begins, and he goes about telling Christine what she's doing outside in the absence of the father Count, and how she's dancing with the gamekeeper, and how she also made him dance with her. So there is this kind of a craziness in terms of conventional life that we can see in the character of Julie, and we are straight away taken into this kind of an action scene, right? So there is this is also a part of Strindberg's larger technique in drama, where he wants the play to begin straight away at the action. He doesn't build the scene up. He doesn't create a kind of a mood of an aura or a kind of a setting or a background. He's interested in simply taking the character straight into action and bring the audience straight into the main body of the play, so to speak. And the moment he brings these characters, now interestingly, he says that, I don't want elaborate stage settings. I don't want too many characters because they cause distraction. So he limits himself to two major characters and a third minor character of Christine. So the whole play is played out between these three characters, and the whole action in fact takes place only in one setting. So again, having one setting in this play, it's only the kitchen. I'll also discuss the relevance of the kitchen, but first the idea of the setting, that he doesn't move his scene from one place to another. It is totally based on the setting of this kitchen scene. He says, I want to maintain one scene, one setting. So the plays, there are no intervals, there are no acts in the play. It keeps moving. There is no break given to the audience, no release from this kind of a intense moment of kind of conversations and dialogues that are taking place there. So he doesn't want to give this kind of release to the audience. So he maintains one setting, one scene, and with minimal characters required on the scene. So because his play is really not dependent on plot. It's not so much plot centric kind of a play. Plot is really secondary to in that sense. Character is important, but character only in the sense that they bring forth a viewpoint, right? So he doesn't require too many characters because he's not really engaged in episodes and events. He doesn't require too many people on the stage. Things are happening behind the door. There is a door that leads to it, where we are told what happens behind the door, what has been happening. But it's more, it's a play which is based on conversations and dialogues and ideas and emotions and also behavior centric. So this is the mainstay of this play, really, from where this play really takes off. So he's also trying to debunk this kind of regularity or the building up of a scene. He wants to make this kind of a irregular kind of a conversation, where the subject, they touch on a conversation, then move to the next, then there is some kind of a light-hearted conversation and back to the topic. So there is, he wants to, of course, that is because he wants to bring it closer to reality. In reality, we don't exhaust subjects. We talk about a subject and very soon we move to an associated subject. That's how associative talks go on. We move from one to the other and so on and so forth. So he wants to, keep it close to reality, but he also wants to suggest that there is scope. You see, when the playwright doesn't really fully exhaust a topic and moves from one to the other, he leaves a lot of potentiality for discussion. And then these work as a kind of a pastiche. They work as a kind of a montage, and that's something we can also see how this connects with what's going to take place in the 20th century. Very soon 20th century drama is going to be modernist in its essence, which is going to take influenced by imagism, surrealism, cubism, or the montage, right? So Strindberg is really at the cusp of this kind of change. He's in this kind of transition period where he has already rejected the old conventional drama, and he's trying to stick to reality but also experiment with form and make it a more like a montage reality, where different topics, when they are put together without being exhausted, they seem to reflect on one another, they seem to give meaning to one another, there's kind of a constant shift of themes, and several themes are projected right in the first scene of the play, which are then developed and expanded in the course of the play and the plot. So this is the essence of his dramatic technique, how he moves in the play, the structure. But as such, when we speak of the text itself, what is there in the play, then we find that the play is really centered around this eponymous heroine, Miss Julie, and projects her psychological state through absurd, unconventional actions of hers. She doesn't behave like the daughter of a count. She doesn't behave like the lady that she's supposed to. Remember, this play is called Miss Julie, and it's not just Julie, right? She's supposed to be the miss of the house. She's supposed to be the count's daughter. So there is a role that she's supposed to play and maintain her distance from the servants and keep her dignity intact. She refuses to do that, in fact, and ventures straight into the kitchen. Now, I spoke to you about the kitchen, and I want to also now talk about the kitchen as such, as a place. You see, the kitchen is a place which is meant for the servants of the house, but she dances with the servants, the gamekeeper, and then the footman and Jean, who's the central character, with her. She drinks with Jean, and finally she sleeps with him, which leads to a kind of a tragic state in the end of the play. So she becomes the dishonorable, within quotes, woman who is not respected, who has not respected class hierarchies. Now, towards the end, finally she is ordered by Jean to kill herself. But the question is, why does Jean continue to live, and why is it that Julie has to die? So the entire scene, because it takes place in the kitchen, and where there is a table, there is cooking fire, there are wine cupboards, and there is a razor sharp knife there are, so this is the place where class dynamics actually becomes alive, because Julie has actually transcended that space. She's moved out of her own room, from her own estate, to the, so to speak, the backyard of the house, which is the kitchen where the servants operate. This is the place of also revelry, and the rooms of Christine and Jean are adjacent to the kitchen. So this is the place of the commoners, and by entering a place which is where she is unfamiliar, she has already entered a territory that is not her own, right? She belongs to the gardens and the house, right, where the count lives. And in that sense, she has transgressed the moment she has entered the kitchen and played casual with the servants, as it were, according to the custom, right? And so, because this is also the place where loose talk and nuisance can take place, you see that Jean, who is earlier respecting class hierarchies, once he's been with Julie and spent the night with her, he talks to her as and calls her the footman's slut, so to speak. So his language also changes, and that is what shocks us, that on the surface he observes this class hierarchy, which is actually the central theme of the play. Here the class hierarchy and class dynamic, how it is played out, is absolutely amazing. How he is, in a short span of time Strindberg is able to bring out the complexity in this class structure. Interestingly, in the play, there are these, in the conversation that Julie has with Jean, you find that they are talking about their dreams. And this, in a way, might be able to also tell us about the larger social structure at the time. Now, Julie narrates her dream, or what she also almost, she calls it a recurring dream or a nightmare of sorts, where she says she's stuck up at the top of a tower or pillar and she cannot find her way down. She says she tries hard to come down to the ground, but she's unable to do that, right? And she wants to come down. She's helpless and she doesn't have the courage to throw herself from the top. Now, remember this idea of not having the courage to throw herself from the top to the ground is in a way a foreboding or a kind of a forewarning that about the fate of Julie. The play actually works a lot on these symbols and these kind of events that take place that actually become ominous, or they foreground the kind of, or make the backdrop for what is going to happen in the play next. So these are events that lead to Julie's tragedy. And on the other hand, there is the footman Jean, who narrates his dream to Julie, where he says that he's in a dream trying to climb a high tree and he's not able to. Wishing to get at the top but not being able to, he says, if only I can get to the first branch, I would manage my way up. That's what he says. So he in fact uses Miss Julie in the play, exploits her, and sees her as the first branch. In fact, Julie says that I was supposed to be your first branch to get to the top of the tree, and he says, yes, that is my ambition, to become rich and to gain some kind of title. So he lures and traps Julie and then builds a kind of an elaborate trap with again multiple motives, as he adds. He is merciless and cruel, and he doesn't think that killing anybody on the way is a problem if he wants to get to the top. And he kills Julie's innocent bird without batting an eyelid. So in a way, he is aggressive and he's looking towards his social ascent. And the play is about this kind of social climbing and Julie's social decline, because she's corrupted herself. She's become the dishonorable woman because she slept with a footman, and she's called a prostitute by the same person who in the play just a couple of pages ago called her the mistress of the house. So in a way, there is a kind of a shift which shocks the reader, and this engagement with the woman subject. So there are two important subjects in this play, really, or themes in this play. One is this class dynamic that operates, between Julie and how she is trying to negate her class and also trying to be free as she wants to be in the absence of the father figure. And the other is the woman question in this play, where she is constantly haunted by her mother's presence in her, where she is constantly haunted by her ideas, so much so that she finds herself to be a kind of a split personality. Note that Julie is a kind of an experiment which her father and mother took in her case. They undertook this kind of experiment. They didn't give her, so she was treated as a boy. She went wild. She did everything that boys did, so much so that she finds that she's become a kind of a half man in the play, that she's not really a woman, and she blames her mother and father for doing that to her. So in a way, this also projects Strindberg's, you could say, anti or apprehensions about the modern woman, right? And in fact, if you look at the background of the play in the 1880s, the question of women's right had become very important. It was being discussed in literary and political circles. There were multiple books being published, and the market was flooded with books on the subject of women's emancipation. And Strindberg was apprehensive of following this necessarily. He thought that he felt compelled, and that society compelled him to write pro-women plays, and he rebelled against this idea. He didn't believe that women who were crusading against male oppressors were welcome. He in fact considered this kind of a type, what he called a degenerate type, who did not want to be looked at as a woman. So, and therefore he thought that such a woman became a tragic type in the play. And Julie's case is a case in point, really speaking. What do you think of this? And for him then, the man is the stronger being who can get ahead, which is why Julie is, persuaded by Jean to kill herself and she commits suicide, but Jean lives on because probably he's the stronger male, but also because he has ambitions to go to the top, and Julie almost wants to obliterate herself, and she wants to in fact obliterate the name of the family because it's a confused family. It's a family which is which has been unhappy because they have changed, so to speak, the laws of nature or laws of society. So heredity and environment really play a very important role in this sense. In the case of gender and class, which are in fact the two very important themes in this play, gender and class.
I take your representation as a kind of drama that emerged in the latter part of the 19th century in a different manner. It doesn't have a plot, doesn't have a storyline, it does not tell anything, it only shows. And what shows has problems, and that's why the viewer is able to raise questions to himself, and this is what shows us a kind of disturbed mind, not on the stage, but somewhere else among the audience.
Yes, I think so. But interestingly, what it shows, so you're very right that it doesn't really builds up a plot and all that stuff. But when it shows the present, there are already these backstories which are attached to the moment in the present, which is being dissected.
Who composes them, these stories then?
They're framed by the playwright in a manner that, and I think this also leads to the larger stream of consciousness which would very soon take over in the 20th century European minds.
Which means it will combine meaningfully with what is going to come on the stage later.
So I think it's also about what the character is today, is not the character. It's a kind of an amalgam of so many narratives and so many people, and so set patterns, the instinctual, the conventional, the paternal, the inherited, the historical, what one reads. So he's trying to bring all of that through the present moment where these characters are engaged, and it's a midsummer eve, in the play. It's a festive night where they're supposed to be mischievous, and so on a night when they're supposed to be festive and celebrating, he picks on a moment and converts it into a tragedy.
So friends, what we have heard is from Professor Richa Bajaj that this kind of a playwright and this kind of writing of the play can combine with what's going to come in the early 20th century, where Strindberg would be actually connecting with modernism, connecting with ideas of a different kind, and that the drama in fact will move from one stage to another but will remain drama itself. So thanks, Professor Bajaj, and well, viewers, I'm sure you would have been compelled to think about a new kind of drama in the case of August Strindberg. Thank you.